Hi, this is Sarah Levin, the Artful Inker. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Thank you for joining me today as we make this Jar of Flowers card. So let me set this aside and we'll get started. For this card, we're going to start by creating a background. I've got my silicone craft sheet here and a piece of Whisper White and my new Just Jade ink pad. It's one of the new Stampin' Up! In Colors that just came in with the new catalog. I'm going to give this a squeeze and then open it up, and so I've transferred some of the ink to the lid. And then I've got my new water painters, and I'm really excited about this broad tipped brush. There's also a medium and fine brush, and I love that you can store them in the packaging. They come in upright like this, so all the water drains down into the barrel as this dries out. So let me set those aside and give this a little squeeze to start my water down into the brush. And we're getting there. Okay, so if you've looked in the catalog, you've seen the Forever Greenery paper, and there is a stripes sheet that I think is just to die for. And so I'm going to use this broad brush and blot as we go to get a similar-ish idea. Just love the stripes on it. And there we go. I'm going to come back on this one and add a little more green. And same thing here. I want it a little deeper on the edge. And now I'm going to set this aside to dry. So let me close this up and put my ink pad and brush out of the way. And this too. Next, I've got the Jar of Flowers stamp set, and we're going to use that on a piece of Whisper White and ink the flowers in Memento. I prefer to tap the ink onto my stamps rather than tap the stamps on the ink. That way I can see what I'm inking and whether it's inked up, and I get far fewer halos around my image that way. Okay, so we are all inked up, and now we're going to color. So I've got my blends in Poppy Parade, Daffodil Delight, Misty Moonlight, and Just Jade, and I've got my Magenta Madness and your Color Lifter always for just in case. So let me think here a second what my plan is, and I'll start coloring. So I'm going to start with the Misty Moonlight, and why don't I zoom right in here for you? And I'm going to color these flowers with some Misty Moonlight, and I'm just touched in with some dark to begin with, and then making sure that I've gotten them the right order. I just looked at caps first and not the labels. Okay, again, just touching in a little bit of the dark and then coloring around with the light. Okay, and let's do this last one here. Okay, and cap those up. Next, we're going to use the Daffodil Delight in light and dark. And I'm going to put the dark in here and along this side, and then blend up with the light. And same here, a little dark here and along this side, and then down here at the bottom. And back to the dark. And I'm just doing quick and easy on the coloring today. And we're just okay, let's cap these. And find my bullet tips on the Poppy Parade. And I'm going to do some of these little flowers in the light and some of them in the dark. And this is more of a, with the size of these flowers, this is more of a scribble in. Here, a couple more down here. And by switching back and forth between light and dark, it adds a little dimension for those. Cap these up. Now that I've got a couple more things colored, I can see where I need a couple more tulips. So let's just flick in a little bit of this dark, and then we're going to just whisk it on around. And same thing with this one here that looks like it might be like fully open. You've seen those tulips where you see right down to the center. And then we're going to do the same thing with the Magenta Madness and use the bullet tips on these little spiky flowers here, coloring some of them in the light, and then I'll come back in and do, and see as I color more of these, I'm just found another tulip down here that I'll need to come back for. And let's see, have I forgotten any little bits? I think that's it. And let's catch that last tulip. So first add in some of this dark down here and whisk up the light. Okay. And then we'll add in the greenery. So I've got the Just Jade, since that's what we've used for our stripes on that piece at the beginning. And let's see how we want to do this. We've added the light there, and I'm going to come ahead and do the same sort of thing that we've been doing with the other pieces, and kind of alternating with some light and dark so that we add some texture. Okay, I think all the little bits are colored. So I'm going to take my paper snips and cut this out. So with the paper snips, I'm just going to come straight across the bottom, and then I always leave a little bit of white border. You can decide to leave none or more than I leave, and just turn the paper. You can cut in closer on those flower spikes, or just give them a more rounded shape as I've done, whichever one you find more pleasing. The biggest thing with cutting, though, is having a good pair of paper snips. Mine are the paper snips that are sold through my Stampin' Up! Store. And then the next biggest thing would be turning the paper instead of the scissors as you cut. But you do need a good sharp pair of snips to get a clean edge, even with turning the paper. Let's cut this excess away. Even when you turn the paper, if your snips aren't good, you're not going to get a clean cut. Okay, so let's leave that there. And I'm going to take this now and cut it with one of the Stitch So Sweetly dies, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have the piece cut with the Stitch So Sweetly dies. I do have a chart for this on my blog. Just search for Stitch So Sweetly dies chart. I've got a card base in Just Jade, and I have an inside layer of Whisper White, and then a strip of the Flowers for Every Season designer paper. Now, the Flowers for Every Season designer paper is a 6x6 stack, and there are 12 double-sided designs. That was 6, and here are the other 6. We're using this one here. And there are 4 of each sheet. So we're going to use this strip to accent the inside of our card, bring some of that bright floral that we've been working on to the inside. And make sure, I'm going to set this on my grid paper and make sure that I'm straight here. Okay, and then add some multi-purpose glue to the back, and go ahead and slide this to the inside. Now here is that striped piece that we created at the beginning, and I'm going to try my new Stampin' Seal, which is one of the new tape runners that are in this new Stampin' Up! Catalog. And I'm going to hold it on either side and run it across. Let's get it started. Run it across and give it a pull. And I do prefer a tape when I have watercolored, because often pieces that are watercolored have just a little bit of a curl to them. And so I'm giving this just a tear off to the side, and I'll put this cap back on so that I'm not sticking everything in my adhesive drawer to my tape runner, the Stampin' Seal. So I like the way that held it down. It's good and flat. So next we're going to add this rectangle cut with the Stitch So Sweetly dies. And I want another one here. Nope, I did. Okay, and then I have this jar that I've cut with the new jar punch out of the Flowers for Every Season designer paper. And this one is actually the extra piece from the favor that I made with the Flowers for Every Season and jar of flowers. So I'm going to add dimensionals to this floral here and add some mini dimensionals up in these little spiky areas. Want a couple more over in here. Okay. Oops. This one wants to travel along, and I don't want this piece to fall out later and show. So, okay, so I just want to make sure how this is going to fit. Okay. And let me tuck another one up in here, because it's going to come off the edge of that Stitch So Sweetly layer, so it needs a double stack. And then I've got my trio of ribbons, the Flower for Every Season pack, and we're going to use the Baker's Twine. Oop, I need to move this one a moment. Come over here, getting ahead of myself. Oop, there. Okay, and I just want to tie a bow here. Probably don't need that much. What do you think for this little jar? Let's back it off just a little bit. I do prefer to tie while it's still attached to the spool. I find I have less waste that way. Okay. And this has Misty Moonlight, silver, and white in this twine. Okay. And let's give it a trim. There's a little bit of tape here at the beginning of the twine. This is the first time I've used it. So if it's the first time you're using your twine, you'll want to check for that and cut it off. Okay, let's get these out of the way and add that dimensional back on here now. Oh, I throw these around like it's snowing. Okay. And this. And then we need a little bit of embellishment on here besides the ribbon or twine. And I'm going to use some of these Flower for Every Season gems. And I've got my Take Your Pick tool and my fine tip glue pen. And we're going to add a few of these green gems around. So let's add one down in here, and remember, you want to place it and leave it. Don't move it around. Wherever it is where it's going to be. It does take a moment for it to adhere, so it's easy enough to, you could slide them around, but then you end up with a little bit of a shiny snail trail. And you don't need a whole lot of adhesive on the back, as the jewel is not going to absorb any of those. And let's see, I'm going to use some of these clear rounded gems and put them on a couple of the flowers. And there are a couple of sizes of these rounded gems. There's a smaller size, which is what I'm using. Oh, I keep knocking it off. And then one that's a little bit larger. And the larger ones would be great on things like the Celebrate Sunflowers flower. So since I have this in my hand, I'm going to see if I can put it on here. It flipped over, so I'll just use my scissors and take it off, and maybe add one more of these. Let's find another smaller one and add and there we go again. Okay, so there. So that's our card, Jar of Flowers, using the Flowers for Every Season designer paper. Thank you for stopping by today. You can give this video a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you click the link in the description, you can go to my blog post where I will have all of the products listed for today's card. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell if you would like to get notifications for the next video that I upload. Thank you for stopping in. Have a great day. Bye.